Welcome to the Tying Bench with Steve Hudson. The Tying Bench is a production of FlyKits.net, your source for quality fly tying kits and fly tying guides. The Tying Bench is presented in conjunction with Alpharetta Outfitters, covering your fly fishing and fly tying needs from the heart of Alpharetta, Georgia. Today at the Tying Bench, the flip-flop popper, one of our favorite flies for brim and bass fishing.
Hello everyone, I'm Steve Hudson. I'm your host for the Tying Bench. Today we're going to be talking about one of my favorite flies. In fact, it's the fly that I grew up with and learned to fly fish with, and that is a foam popping bug. Popping bugs are among the easiest of flies to fish, and they're also among the most enjoyable of flies to tie, and we're going to add an interesting twist to them today. What we're going to do is make the bodies for our popping bugs from the soles of ordinary foam flip-flops. You can go to any of the big box stores and often find flip-flops on sale for $1 a pair. When I see the $1 a pair flip-flops, I stock up. I get every color I can imagine, and you would be surprised how many colors they come in. The techniques for making these flies are a little bit craft project, a little bit fly tying, but the flies that you create are great flies for fishing for brim and bass, and if you tie them small enough, even trout. One of the keys to making a flip-flop popper is to make the body of the bug. We're going to do that by using a tool that cuts out small cylinders from the sole of the flip-flop. Those cylinders will become the bodies. We can make those bodies using either our hands to twist the tool through the foam material, or we can use a power drill to drill them out very quickly if we want to make a lot of bodies for a lot of flies. The tool that I like to use is a simple piece of metal tubing, perhaps a section from an aluminum arrow shaft or a piece of brass tubing from the hobby store. You want to get a piece of tubing and cut it to a length of about 4 inches. That then becomes the tool that you use to cut the bodies. One way to cut bodies is to do it by hand. Grasp the tool in your hand and put the flip-flop sole on a firm surface. Hold the flip-flop sole and then rotate the tool with your hand to cut into the foam sole of the shoe. It won't take but a few seconds to cut through the foam, and when you're done, you'll have a nice cylindrical body to use for your poppers. Cutting bodies by hand works great, but sometimes you find yourself in production mode and want to make more bodies than that technique allows. If that's the case, the easy thing to do is to chuck the tool in the jaws of your power drill. Use your power drill to cut out the bodies, being sure that you back up the foam sole with an old newspaper or magazine so you don't damage the surface below it. I find this is my preferred technique as it allows me to cut out dozens of bodies in just a few minutes. It also has the added advantage of giving me bodies with a little bit smoother sides than the ones I get if I cut them out by hand. Once your bodies are cut from the foam sole of the flip-flop, you're ready to prepare them for mounting on the hook. This process begins with poking a hole lengthwise and off-center through the foam body. To do this, you'll use your bodkin, that pointed needle-like tool that comes with so many fly tying tool kits, and the way that you'll use it is to heat it over the flame of a small butane lighter. This warms the bodkin enough to where it will melt its way through the foam of the body, yielding a nice hole that makes it easy to slip the body onto the shank of the hook. Now that I've got the body prepared by cutting it to length and poking a hole lengthwise through it, I'm ready to attach that body to the hook. To put the body on the hook, I take the body, find the hole that I poked earlier, and work it onto the hook, sliding the body all the way down the shank to the bend, like that. Then I take my thread and I build a thread base on the front half of the hook shank. This thread base needs to be fairly thick and relatively rough to help the body grip the hook when I apply the adhesive in a few minutes. I'll go back and forth 4 or 5 or 6 times on the thread base just to make it thick enough so that it will hold the body well. After I've got my thread wrapped, then I can cut off the tag end. I could have done that earlier, of course. Cut the tag end, and then I'm going to tie some sort of a knot to secure it. Here, I'm just going to use a half hitch, simple little 2-turn half hitch, just to hold my thread while I glue the body to the hook. Now to glue the body, I'm going to use Zap-A-Gap. This is a medium formulation, and I'm going to take it and put a drop of Zap-A-Gap on the thread. I want to coat the thread thoroughly with the Zap-A-Gap, and then comes the tricky part. I get one shot at pushing the body over the thread up to the front of the hook. If I go too far and have to pull it back, there's an excellent chance the adhesive will set. So I want to try to get it right. You might even want to do a dry run or two without adhesive just to get a sense for what it feels like to push the body into position. After a few seconds, the adhesive will cure and the body will be solidly mounted to the hook. Now I'm ready to build the tail and the hackle. We'll start with the tail, but before I do that, I want to build a thread base on the back of the fly. I start right behind the body and I work my way down to about the bend of the hook. I cut my thread, and then what I'm going to do is take my thread back up to a point right behind the body. I'm going to make the tail of this popper from a nice black marabou feather. I pick a feather with nice soft fibers on the tip, and what I will do with that feather is stroke those fibers toward the feather's tip to get a little bundle like this that has a length roughly equal to the length of the hook. Then I'll transfer the bundle to my non-bobbin hand and use my scissors to cut off the extra portion of the feather. At this point, I want to be careful not to let go of the feathers. If I do, I've got a mess. But if I hold on to them, I can then move them to a point behind the body, lay them on the hook, press them up against the body so they're actually pushing on it, and then while still holding the feathers, make a loose wrap of thread and a few tight wraps of thread to catch the feather bundle. I'll wrap the thread all the way to the bend of the hook, sliding my hand down as I go and chasing my fingers with the thread. Once I reach the bend, then I'm ready to tie in the feather that will become the hackle for this fly. To hackle this particular popper, I'm going to use a dyed green grizzly feather. And the first thing I'll do with this feather is come to the butt end of the feather and cut off the fuzzy part. Then I'll take the shaft of the feather and I'll press it up so it's just touching the back of the body of the fly. I'll use a loose wrap to catch it, and then several tighter wraps to anchor it, ending with my thread right behind the body of the fly. Now I'll take the feather and wrap it from that point near the bend where I tied it in, forward. Each time I go around, I'm sweeping the fibers backwards so they don't mat down and overlap one another. I don't worry too much about which way the feather cups. I hope this feather is long enough. I think it is. And I should end right behind the body. At that point, I hold the feather with my bobbin hand, pull it a little bit forward, and with my other hand, I take the thread and I come straight across, directly behind the body to secure the feather. I'll do that 2 or 3 times to make certain the feather is tied in, and then I'll sweep everything back and make another couple of wraps right behind the body to secure everything. Now I want to trim off the little extra piece of feather, so I use the tips of my scissors. I find that feather shaft and trim it away. At that point, the basic tying is complete. All I have to do now is tie a knot behind the body to secure the thread. This is a great time to use a whip finish, either with a tool or with your fingers. It's also a good time to use a giant half-hitch tool, one that you could reach over the body to drop the knot right behind the body. In either case, I tie my knot, I drop the thread in and secure it, and now I can cut my thread to complete the tying of my basic popping bug. Now a basic bug is great, but we're going to add some enhancements to it. One of the easiest enhancements to add is eyes. You can add eyes to your popping bug using molded commercially manufactured eyes, or you can add a drop of dimensional fabric paint, or you can take the really simple approach, which is what I'm going to do here, and that's to use a permanent marker to make a dot on each side of the body. To do that, I simply turn the body up, the side where I want the eye to be, press the marker in place, and pull it away, and there's my eye. I'll do that on both sides of the bug. And now I've added eyes to my popping bug. I don't know if they make a lot of difference to the fish, but they certainly do make a difference to fishermen. I find that fly fishers tend to fish a bug more confidently if it has embellishments like eyes. There's one other easy enhancement we can add to our basic popping bug, and that is to add some rubber legs to it. I'm going to use this rubber legging material to create the legs, and what I'm going to do is to pull a single strand off of the strip of rubber leg material. I have one strand now like that. I set the strand aside for a moment and then go back to my bodkin, and I'm going to poke a hole through the fly, right behind the eyes and all the way through the fly's body. I don't need to heat the tool for this one because I don't want the hole to be too big, but I poke the hole through, and now I have the hole where the legs will go. To add the legs, I'm going to use a bobbin threader. A wire bobbin threader is perfect for this. I'm going to take the loop of the threader and poke it through the hole that I've just created. I'll poke it all the way through and out the other side of the fly, like that. Then I take my strand of leg material, I run it through the loop of the threader to about the midway point, and then I pull the whole thing through the body of the fly. Don't worry about making it even at this point. We can easily address that in just a second. At this point, I have a fly with rubber leg material pulled through and legs ready to be trimmed. The easiest way to cut the legs to the same length is to pull them all straight up and cut across all 4 legs with a single cut of the scissors. That should give me legs that are very close to the same length, and here it looks like I've hit them about right. I can add a drop of Zap-A-Gap at the point where the legs go into the body if I want to, but often there's enough pressure from the rubber body to hold the legs in place without it. It's also possible to add multiple sets of legs to your flip-flop poppers. To do that, simply make multiple holes and pull multiple strands of leg material. Here, this yellow popper has 2 sets of legs. They're installed in an X pattern in the body, yielding 4 legs on each side of the popper. More legs seem to make for more action in the fly, and more action means more strikes and more fish. At this point, the only thing I have to do to finish my popping bug is to add some head cement to secure everything in place. The easiest way to do that is to turn the bug upside down, take my head cement dispenser, and put a drop of cement right at the base of the body where the hackle fibers and the foam come together. That cement will wick in, and once it dries, everything will be securely locked into place. Foam popping bugs are among the easiest of all flies to fish. Whether you're a beginning fly fisherman or a seasoned veteran, the technique is simple. Simply toss the bug where the fish are and hold on. The fish usually do the rest. That makes popping bugs great flies for any fly fisherman, whether you're a beginner or a seasoned expert. In most cases, the secret to successfully fishing a fly like the flip-flop popper really isn't secret at all, and it's no more complicated than doing almost nothing. Traditional wisdom says to let the bug sit perfectly still until all the ripples have died away, then give it a gentle pop and see what happens. Sometimes you may want to try a technique that I call the splop, a combination of a splash and a plop that makes the bug hit the water really hard. The way to do this is to overpower your cast and break your wrist at the end so the bug slams into the water. Sometimes that's all it takes to trigger an explosive reaction strike from the biggest fish in the pool. It can also be effective to turn your popper into a diving bug. To do so, you start at the tying bench and trim the front of the fly so that it's sloped at an angle. Then finish tying the bug as you ordinarily would. Later, when you fish this fly, retrieve it in short strips, a foot, maybe a little more. The fly will dive, leaving a trail of bubbles behind it, and at the end of your strip, it will wobble its way back to the surface. That's a great imitation of a wounded minnow, and bass just can't leave it alone. So there you have it, my friend. That's how you tie and fish the flip-flop popper. It's a great fly. I think you'll enjoy tying it and enjoy fishing it, and you'll find the materials needed to create these flies are available at almost any fly shop. I also hope you'll take a look at our Tie It and Try It popping bug kit. This one's available on our web store at flykits.net. It's also available on Amazon and fly shops around the country. Check it out. It's got materials to tie at least 20 of these flies, and I think you'll have fun with them. So till we get together next time, good tying and good fishing to you, and please let me know how you do with the flies that you tie. Thank you, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.